to White, over to Caruso for the lead! Time here, turn up the 18! Woo!
Hello and welcome back to the Sea Red UK podcast, where quite simply is Chicago Bulls sing. The podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever you're listening, rate, review, subscribe, helps us out and ensures you don't miss another episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, give a thumbs up and leave some comments down below. We will get back to them. I'm Matt, and as always, joined by Neill. How are we doing, Neill?
I'm okay. No, that's a lie. I'm absolutely buzzing. We'll get into it in a short while, but yeah, I'm just off a flight yesterday from Chicago, and I can't wait to tell everybody all about it.
Yeah, obviously the title of this episode is RollerCoaster Weekend, because that's what we had between your highs and Bulls lows and everything in between. So yeah, the floor is yours. Let's hear about your Chicago trip.
You're right. Without getting into too much detail, I do plan on putting up a little bit of a montage at some point and putting it onto YouTube for anyone that is interested, so they can watch it, listen to it. And for most normal people who probably aren't interested, can just let it go past them. They won't have to listen to me go banging on about it too much on this pod. I basically flew over with a mate of mine. We'd been in contact with the same people we get in contact with whenever any of our other listeners are going over to a Chicago Bulls game, and we try and see if there's anything we can do for them. Well, on this occasion, it was me that was trying to link in with them. So I was hopeful, but not expecting too much. And they absolutely overdid what I expected them to do. That, you know, our contact over there, he met me at me and my friend at the United Center, slipped us in through the staff entrance, and we started walking down through the tunnels underneath, which of course is where the locker rooms are and the media rooms and stuff like that. So bringing us through there, and then to my surprise brought us up towards the court. So he brought us in to the pre-game warm-up, and I was lucky enough to get to see DeMar DeRozan shooting free throws and practicing his pump fake shots. Same with Andre Drummond, which is quite lucky because it could be the last time he's ever in a Bulls jersey. And or the last time I ever get to see him in a Bulls jersey anyway. Javon Carter was on the sideline as well. And Torrey Craig was there too, speaking to family members who he'd brought to see the game. So that was fantastic. Just to be there and you know, you're really fighting back the emotions of it all. It's an unbelievable experience. They couldn't have been nicer to me. They couldn't have been nicer to my friend who'd we've always talked about going to a game together. We used to work together and fly to Chicago and all that, but we never actually managed to get a flight together at the same time in Chicago on a game night. So it never kind of panned out. So it was great to finally, after all these years, get it done. He was meant to come to Paris with us as well, and that fell through because of the whole problem we had getting tickets. So it was a long time waiting. So we sat down. Joe Pinchin come over, said hello, took a photo. And then we were told we were actually going to get to stand on the actual floor, step into center court. So to say that it meant the world is an absolute understatement. So I took that step onto the court, and I just had to do it. I bent down, and I didn't actually put my face onto the floor, but I kissed my hand and I put the kiss onto the court itself. And real emotional moment for me. Stepped onto center court and turned around, and it was Bill Smith, and he took our photo at center court, which for anybody who knows or who's in the know, you'll understand how big a deal that is that he was there taking our photo. So I'll post all that in the montage anyway. So Casey Johnson was there as well. Didn't speak to him at that point, but I did speak to him later. Tim Sinclair, big wave hello, started texting me to say he'd meet me later. And just everybody was just so welcoming and warm. It's just an amazing organization to be a part of, even if we're only on the outskirts. So we were brought upstairs and we were given a behind the scenes tour, which is what they normally do for anyone with that they're able to, that we kind of point in their direction. Obviously there's never any promises, but if they can, they are pretty good at doing it for you. And so anyone else that's going, always link in with us if you've planned a trip, and we'll see if there's anything we can do for you. Again, no promises, no contracts, just a word of mouth that if we can, we will.
Asking the right people the right questions.
That's exactly it. And that's exactly, and we're not saying we're the right people, but we do kind of know the right people. So link up, we'll have a chat and see what we can do. The tour was fantastic. The artwork and murals and everything like that are up in the offices. Everything has meaning. And again, I'll post all that in my little montage when I get it done. I don't know when I'll get around to it, but I'll get it done at some point. So once we finished that, we went down to the game. The seats we had were pretty good. They were 8 rows back from the right-hand corner of the basket. So we were in line with the Chicago Bulls bench, which was pretty cool. So I could see everybody sitting down there. Half of them were in street clothes, but that's the Bulls season, isn't it? So that was that. Watched the game. It was all right. It was just a career night for Javonte Green. That was all. Win against the Knicks. All right. Double clutch reverse dunk that set the whole place alight. Couldn't have asked for too much more, to be fair, considering this season and considering the following 2 games that came after it. It was electrifying. It was fantastic. Didn't quite get to say hi to Benny or give him a high five, but he was really close to me because we were right next to the splash zone. So when he went in and did his popcorn splash, we were pretty close to it. Halftime, Casey Johnson kept to his word, came up and said hello. And in all fairness to him, he stood with us practically for the entirety of halftime talking to us. There was a guy sitting down in front of us and he stood up and goes, "Hey, it's Casey Johnson, man." Excuse my bad accent. "It's Casey Johnson, man." And so Casey, in fairness to him, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, Big Dave. There you go. That's revenge for the bad Jamirish accent. But so Casey actually, showing pure class, when he finished talking to us, he went back to that guy and he shook his hand and said, "Hi, nice to meet you." And then he went back doing his job. But I mean, to take time out in the middle of a game, and just be so welcoming and that to us was incredible. And I have to say as well, throughout the whole thing, even though my mate Finan, or Finn, as he had to become known in America because people can't pronounce an Irish name, he was never felt left out the whole trip. Absolutely everybody along the line, even though they knew he was just my mate and not necessarily a diehard basketball fan, let alone Bulls fan, although he is after this weekend. He was included in everything. That's just how inclusive and friendly they all are. And then at the end of the game, Tim Sinclair, he kept his word. He came up to us. He said hi as well. So basically, it was just an incredible weekend, topped off with a visit to CHGO Bulls on Sunday night to watch the Orlando Magic game. And again, the lads, well, I mean, they're always great and couldn't have been more welcoming, and actually ended up including me in the pre-game. So it's under the title of a watch-a-thon. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and check it out, and you get to have a laugh at me instead of hosting a podcast, trying to fit in as a guest.
Yeah. Obviously, I just got a few sort of quick questions on the 2 things.
Go for it.
I've already asked you them. I already know the answers, but obviously for our listeners, obviously when we went to Paris, we were quite amazed by DeMar DeRozan and how smooth and everything he just is with everything he did. But we were in the nosebleeds, to be fair. Obviously, you was a lot closer this time. What was that you noticed about the players being that close to him that you wouldn't see on the broadcast ordinarily?
Well, there's a few things really. The first one is exactly the same as we said before, except for I just got a bit of a closer perspective, and that is that DeMar DeRozan is just smooth. He's smooth as silk. The way he plays, the way he moves, it is incredible to watch and to actually get to see it in person. So that's definitely been cemented for me. Aside from that, Andre Drummond is absolutely huge. He's ginormous, and how he can move as gracefully as he does for his size is incredibly impressive. Not so much now that he's sitting in a wheelchair, but at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely something I took notice of. The other thing, of course, you can't miss the fact that Javonte Green is just a highlight reel. I mean, what was it? I think it was 3 or 4 dunks he got in the game, plus that double clutch reverse. He was everywhere. It's you really understand where the whole "there's 5 Javontes out there" comes from, because again, apologies for the accent, because he really does just cover the floor. He just gets everywhere. He's an irritant. He gets in as many passing lanes as he can. He gets into as many spaces as he possibly can. It's incredible to watch, and his work ethic is incredible. And of course, that night was particularly good because he was on fire. And the last thing that I really noticed being actually at the game is Alex Caruso's footwork is sublime. It's absolutely sublime. It's not just that he gets in passing lanes and he's quick with his hands to steal the ball. His footwork to stay in front of the player and to still be able to make corrections or get into the passing lane and steal the ball, get his cookies is incredible. It's really, really impressive to watch. When you kind of start paying attention to it, then it becomes mesmerizing. I found myself kind of being so drawn into his feet and the way he was moving that I kind of was getting lost from some of the other stuff that was going on. So, yeah, absolutely incredible. They were the kind of the things of note that I took away from it anyway.
And Ayo been fast.
Oh, yeah. He's like lightning. He really is like lightning. You know, we say he's getting downhill, and you can see why, because when he's running, it's like he's running downhill and everybody behind him's running uphill.
And then obviously on the CHGO bit, obviously we admired Peck and Big Dave as podcasters, you know, respect their opinions and all stuff like that. Obviously you got Will Gottlieb there as well, you know, beat writer / podcaster, analyzes a game in a different way to how me, you, probably Peck and Big Dave do.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously been there. I mean, it was weird for me watching you watch the game that I was watching, but for you, what do you get a different perspective watching it with them three than you do sitting at home? The way that they analyze it, the way they criticize it, they critique it, you know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I would say so. To be perfectly honest with you, from obviously from sitting there and watching it, you begin to forget that other people are watching you while you're watching it. And like we watched it back at home I watched it with my wife and my kids, and like
Flex.
I absolutely kind of, I suppose, a bit of a weird flex, but and I absolutely hate the program Gogglebox. I've always said I don't get it, but I mean, my wife was like, well, it's essentially like Gogglebox. Somebody's watching you watching something else.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, that's a fair point. But yeah, that aside, what I found was Big Dave and Matt Peck. Now, I'm not saying that we're on their level of knowledge or anything like that or expertise, but they certainly view the game more like we do. You know, they take
Like
it
a
in
fan.
and like a fan and but an educated fan, not saying that we're educated or anything like that, but they are. And they watch it like an educated fan that then gives an opinion, and it's an opinion that you instantly listen to. Do you know, that kind of way, because you respect them so much.
Yeah.
But of course, they're quite different in the way that they come at it, which is probably slightly different to us, because a lot of the time we're very much in agreement on the things that we talk about. But they certainly are on different ends of the scale a lot of the time. But what I did note, and this is no disrespect to anybody else, but Will is a walking encyclopedia of basketball. He really, really is. He really knows his stuff. You know, because I don't watch the videos that often. It's normally audio, like yourself, that we tend to listen to it a lot of the time. And you don't realize that even though he's sitting there with his laptop and he's able to pull up information, most of the time he's not. He just has it all in there. He's very, very knowledgeable, and it's quite amazing to talk to and listen to him actually face to face. And like I say, there's no disrespect to the rest of the guys, because they're all great.
Yeah, which is what makes them great as a team. And
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I've got nothing else on your trip. I don't know if you have. I know obviously we're trying to get through it as
like I say, I'll put out something that kind of covers my trip in more depth and put some photos and videos and little snippets and stuff like that in it for anyone that is interested. But I don't want to just make this pod all about my trip, because, you know, we need to talk about some basketball instead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was things on your socials, our socials, and stuff like that as well, which I'm sure people have seen. Obviously, one other thing on Sunday when you was there, it was also Seaward UK's 3rd birthday, which
was.
Obviously, you know, the tweet went out, and just want to thank everybody for the support, the messages, everything like that. You know, wishing us future success and stuff like that. It really does mean a lot. It's, you know, it's the comments and stuff like that. You know, it kind of makes it a bit more worthwhile doing all this, doesn't it? You know, we sometimes don't think we get. I mean, obviously we're not doing it for the praise and the recognition, but it's nice to know that people respect our opinions and support us, basically. Do you know what I mean? So that was obviously nice to see, nice to read. Especially
it was certainly a weekend of support.
Yeah, which was needed. Because as I said in the little statement thing that I put out, it is tough. We have thought about maybe stopping what we're doing, but them sort of messages make you think, well, we'll carry on. So yeah, on to Bulls, I guess. And the roller coaster continued. Well, it was kind of just all down, wasn't it, really, after Friday?
Yeah, after Friday it was, yeah.
Obviously, the game you attended, Bulls win 108-100 against Knicks. Javonte Green. Yeah. Javonte Green, career night. You know, first ever double-double as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good Bulls. And then Sunday, not so much. Obviously, as they lost 113-98 to Magic in a game where, yeah, it was just, it was rough. Obviously, Caruso didn't play, did he?
No.
Javonte Green stepped into the starting lineup, which is no surprise. And then obviously last night, 128-117 loss to the Knicks. Once again, Javonte Green in the starting lineup in place of, well, Ayo Dosunmu this time. And that's kind of been the story of Bull season, hasn't it? You know, players coming in and then dropping out. You know, we had Javon Carter last night as the sixth man after being a coach's DMP. I mean, he only got about 6 minutes, put up 5 threes, hitting one of them.
Yeah.
You know, and we seem to, like last season, find different ways of winning and then different ways of losing. There's just no pattern to the way, you know, Bulls are doing anything. You know, the inconsistencies with injuries and stuff like that is obviously doesn't help. I mean, one thing that I noticed apart from the obvious, in last night's game against Knicks, and I said it to you in the live thread, when we're on the attack, whether it's a breakaway or whatever, everybody goes out wide, goes to the arc, when you're just thinking, just go for the layup. And then on the defensive end, we crowd the paint and don't guard the three.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah. I mean, it was really noticeable last night. I mean, last night's game was just head scratcher, wasn't it? I mean, obviously the biggest embarrassment was the Torrey Craig, whatever that was, which on the following defensive play led to Drummond being carted off by 4 people in a wheelchair because he, like you said, he's that big.
Yeah.
I mean, fair play to Torrey Craig. He's held himself accountable for it. And the following the tech that he got later on as well, he's held himself accountable for that. And you've got to respect that, because not a lot of players will hold themselves accountable. You know, he said he was trying to spark a bit of entertainment, get the crowd lifted, get the players lifted. Unfortunately, it's going to go down as one of the biggest Shaq's in a Fool moments ever.
Yeah,
probably.
I think it could win it this year at the end of the season for the number 1 spot, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think Drummond won it last year as well, so good to see that he's consistent.
Consistency is key.
But
continuity.
It wasn't on Drummond, I don't think that. That was.
Oh no, it totally wasn't on Drummond. It totally wasn't. I mean, Drummond got the steal. Drummond is normally the player that would get a lob, and Javonte Green. They'd be the 2 players that would normally get a lob if anybody was going to get a lob. Torrey Craig didn't exactly put it low off the backboard. He put it very high off the backboard. If I was Andre Drummond running behind him, I'd think it was for me as a reward for getting the steal.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand why Andre Drummond went for it.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is why Torrey Craig threw it up there in the first place.
Rather than just get the
It
easy
was
2 points. I mean, what we would
you're 9 points down.
Yeah.
Take your shot. Take your points. You were on a transition attack with 0 defenders in front of you. None. Put the ball in the basket. If you're 9, 10, 20, 30 points up, then you can showboat. But when you're 9 points down in a game that matters, you just got to take your points.
Yeah, I mean, the transition offense as well. I mean, there must have been 3, 4 occasions where it's a simple pass and they're in, but like I say, they're either running out to the arc or to pass it to the player that's running towards a player, and it's just like real. I mean, the Magic game as well was the same. The amount of turnovers, stupid turnovers as well. I mean, I think DeMar DeRozan ended up, I think DeMar DeRozan ended up was it 7 turnovers in the Magic game? You know, and the game before, obviously the one that you was at, completely different.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, I mean, we coined it last year, the Jekyll and Hyde Bulls, and
that's it.
I mean, you're kind of seeing it in a game again as well. Do you know what I mean? And last night in particular was a proper Jekyll and Hyde sort of performance. I just thought there was some good, a lot of bad, and a lot of what the fuck, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, how many times in our live thread did we actually type WTF?
Yeah.
I mean, there must have been at least 3 occasions.
You know, so I mean, we're not going to go into the games too much because, it's just it's there to see. Do you know?
I don't really want to relive the experience any more than I have to be honest.
Apart from Friday's game.
Oh yeah, no, I watched that over and over again. Oh yeah, that was great. That was great. Everything about that was great.
So I mean, obviously that loss last night now puts us at 37-42. Obviously 5 below 500 with 3 regular season games left. Once again, Bulls are not going to finish above 500 or at 500. The best we can get, if we win all 3, is 40-42, which was the same as last season's record.
Yeah.
Continuity.
And that's what we're striving for now, which is just, just gross.
I mean, in the last 10 games, Bulls are 3-7 as well. Which,
God, that's awful.
You know, at this point of the season, I mean, obviously we did our predictions a couple of weeks back, going into the last however many games it was, and I think we both had them down to finish 42-40, and the best we're going to get is 40-42. It's just, I mean, we're not going to go into it too much, but a lot of change needs to happen. You know, players need to be off this roster, and the biggest problem I find is the roster construction. You know, and we've said that time and time again. And that brings me on to my next point that I wanted to talk about is my guy, Javonte Green. And basically, I mean, obviously on the last episode, we spoke about how he was coming to the end of his 10-day. We wanted him to come back, blah, blah, blah. He missed the Hawks game, which at the time was put down as personal reasons, I think it was. And it transpires that it was actually because he was at the birth of his son in Chicago.
I didn't know that, actually.
He was planning on being in Chicago for it, and days before he was due to, because obviously the G League season finished, a couple of days before he was due to come to Chicago, Bulls offered him the 10-day, so it was like, perfect, you know.
So what did he call him? Javonte the 6th?
He didn't actually say. It was I heard it on the Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast today.
Very good.
With Stacey.
He had Javonte on it, did he?
Yeah, that was like an interview with him. Worth a listen if you haven't. And obviously he highlights the fact that got what Golden State did for him, how they were patient with him, and stuff like that. He like I say, he was due to come to Chicago anyway for the birth of his son. I don't know if he's still with the mum or if it was like one of them things. And he said obviously it felt right to get the deal to the end of the season because it means he can stay around in Chicago. He's not having to go back to Santa Cruz and stuff like that. So, but obviously, I love Javonte, and I think the whole of the Bulls fan base loves him. If you don't love him, there's something wrong, I think.
Are you even a Bulls fan?
Yeah. So everyone's happy that he's back, but the question that I've been thinking is, obviously the roster's that poorly constructed. Javonte doesn't fill any of the needs that this Bulls team has got, i.e., 3-point shooting, rim protection.
Yeah.
What have you. He is, well, there's 5 of him. He will do everything that's required, but he doesn't fill the needs. He fills a role, and he plays it very well. So obviously, at the minute, he's come in initially on the 10-day, and he's performing better than Javon Carter, Torrey Craig, who I think is still struggling with his knee injury a little bit, which is probably why he's dropped off. I mean, I've got nothing against Torrey Craig. I think he's been a great signing. But, it just reeks continuity as well, doesn't it? Bringing him back.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the question I've kind of got for you is, would you bring him back next year? Now, Stacey King asked him if he wanted to come back, and he said, yeah, definitely. I'd love to sign a deal. But obviously, we just highlighted the problems this roster's got.
Right.
Torrey Craig is on player option. Whether he takes it or not, who knows? Javon Carter's got another 2 years. Obviously, they waived Terry Taylor to bring Javonte in. So he's technically like the 15th man on the roster, despite the fact that we haven't got 15 players on the roster.
Right.
Obviously, there's going to be some bigger moves. Javonte's just going to be that middle guy, isn't he, really? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But would you bring him back next year? And do you think it was the right move now to bring him in to the end of the season?
Okay. First of all, I'll answer the second question. Do I think it was the right move to bring him in now? And for me, the answer is absolutely yes. We needed a spark plug. We needed energy. We needed reliability. We needed a game changer, not necessarily a game winner, or a superstar, but a game changer. You get all of that in one package with Javonte. I think even though he doesn't necessarily fit a role, as in for a position that we need, like you've stated, 3-point shooting or a big, or even a large wing that can shoot, he doesn't hit any of those. He doesn't tick any of those boxes. However,
he can do it.
He ticks all the boxes that don't exist. Like, he's not a box score player. He is a eye test player. And for me, I think he very much deserves a place in Chicago on this team. He's earned it. He's proven he's earned it, both before the injury and already in a short time since the injury. The players seem to love him. The fans seem to love him. And everything about him says Chicago Bull. Everything about him says Chicago Bull. So you're going to get him for an absolute dirt cheap pickup as well.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely like to see Javonte Green back here next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. It's just obviously where he fits in it and who ends up leaving. Because potentially
it doesn't matter. You find a space for him.
I mean, potentially it pushes the likes of Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips further down the roster, and you kind of want them to not be that far down the roster because you want them to get the minutes and develop. And you kind of 3 players there that don't actually fit the needs and stuff like that. So it's going to take some work. Obviously, just something else on Javonte before we move on is the last 3 games rebounding wise, Javonte Green, 13, 8, and 12. Nikola Vucevic as our big, 13, 5, and 5. So Javonte can do it. You know,
Yeah.
DeMar even said he plays like he's 6'9".
Right. He does. And
the way he dunks
you know why? You know why? Well, yeah, because there's 5 of him. But also because he wants it.
Yeah.
He wants it more. He plays with will. He plays with heart. He plays with every fiber of his being every time he steps on the floor. Like I say, he's a Chicago Bull from start to finish. Everything about him screams Chicago Bull. And that's why he is out rebounding Vooch or anybody else on the team apart from Andre Drummond.
Yeah. So, yeah. And, I mean, just quickly moving on, the last little thing, we won't spend too much on it. Has Coby essentially played himself out of most improved contention? I think the narrative is yes. Tyrese Maxey, I think, was always going to win it anyway. He dropped 50 points the other night. And this is what I was trying to say a couple of times on the pod is Coby's improvement has been massive. It's been needed as well. Obviously, at the minute, he's tired, he's injured, he's battered, he's bruised. So you can't particularly knock him for... He's still been playing well. He's just not been at that level that he was through January, February, whenever it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've said on a couple of times on the pod, the improvement was there and the improvement was needed, but all he particularly done is put himself as an NBA starter rather than an NBA superstar. You see like Jalen Brunson last night, back-to-back 40-point games. We're getting excited because Coby's putting up 25 points a night. You know what I mean? That's what you expect from a starting guard in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, the 3-point shooting was fantastic to watch. It's not so much now, despite the fact that last night he got the record for most 3-pointers in a Bulls season at 205. He then did hit another one. You know, so that's what I mean. He seems to have gone back to that streakiness, doesn't he? And unfortunately, I mean, I don't think he was ever going to win it, the most improved. Hopefully, he's still done enough to have himself in contention. Or in is it top 3 they normally announce, don't they? So hopefully he get even second. I think Coby will take some pride from that and maybe spare him on again next season to know that he has done it, he can do it. But he's got more. It's not necessarily improvement, I think, to do this off season. It's learning his own body, learning how to basically play the amount of minutes that's getting put on him. You know, because he's not finishing a game and having loads of energy now. He's having to actually rest. He can't go out and shoot another 53 pointers or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's I mean, obviously, just quickly, what's your sort of take on Coby's decline, if you want to put it as that?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in a way he's kind of plateaued again, hasn't he? Really, he was at a certain level, and then he excelled and went to another level, and he seems to have kind of gone back down to the first level now and kind of leveled off there. And it seems to be since the injury where he what was it, his groin or his hip when he hyperextended it.
Yeah.
And since then he hasn't really looked the same since he came back. So whether he's still carrying a bit of a niggly injury and he's not letting on, or he doesn't want to use it as an excuse, or whether he just got himself out of a headspace that he was just in such a groove, because we do know, like we said before, he has always been a streaky, microwavy kind of a player. And I think he needs to be on a continual momentum. And as soon as you break that for whatever reason, whether it's injury or too many days off, or he just starts having a bit of a slump, it's very, very difficult for Coby to get back into it again, back into gear. And I've noticed that anytime he's been out in the past, even before this season, if he's out for whatever reason, when he comes back, he's slow to kind of get going again. And even though it was only out for a short space of time, it seems to be enough to have taken the wind out of his sails. So that's a shame. But do I think that means that based on 4 or 5 games that he should then be removed from the most improved player talks? Absolutely not. I think across the course of the season, the vast majority of games across the season, Coby has been the single standout player for this Bulls team. And a lot of the time, he has been the only thing that we could hold on to that keeps us interested in the games.
Yeah.
So it's the ginormity of his leap from where he was to where he got to, and even where he is still, even though he's not scoring 25 points a night and hitting threes from everywhere, he's still affecting the game. Now, last night, I don't know what happened. I think he'd been borrowing the cream from P. Will or something because he couldn't seem to keep his handles the way he normally does. But that's a rarity, right? I mean, I think that's about the first time I've seen him play like that this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he should still be in contention. Do I think he's played his way out of winning the award? Absolutely, I do think I think at this stage it's a lock for Tyrese Maxey. But I do still think that he should be getting mentioned in the top 3. Absolutely. I think probably Alperen Sengun, but he's been injured as well. So for a bit.
I think he's still out as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So I think for that reason, Coby should still definitely be up there in the top 3 conversation and could very well play second.
Yeah. And I mean, that obviously, what I've just said is not a knock on Coby. It's just obviously observation.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, we've got 3 games left of the regular season and then the 9th, 10th game against Hawks. We will be putting out our end of season grades and asking people obviously to vote on it, as well as our C-Red UK awards, which obviously the unsung hero, most improved, MVP. It'd be interesting to see where Coby falls in some of them as well. I think I think there could be a lot of recency bias in it, and
always is. You just have to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I asked you the other day, do you think he's done enough to get our MVP? And you was unsure. I kind of sort of said I don't think he will, but not going to throw any names out there. Don't want to influence anybody. So, yeah, 3 regular games left just to finish off. Quick predictions: Pistons tomorrow night. What are you going with?
Win, dub, definitely.
Yeah, same as me. Wizards Friday night, I think it is.
Revenge game, dub.
Both of them are, aren't they? So,
yeah.
Yeah, we've got to win them too, and then obviously we finish with Knicks. And you don't even know what sort of lineups are going to be out. Do you know what I mean at this stage?
No.
But obviously in New York, I'm going to say we lose.
Yeah, I think because I think as far as we don't know what kind of lineups are going to be out there, I think we do because we know what kind of coaches out there, and I genuinely think last game of the season at their home place against a rival team, against his old team, Tom Thibodeau is going to be putting out his strongest squad.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're right and we beat Pistons and Wizards, and then that's us secured that 9th seed.
Yeah.
So that ultimately on Sunday night, UK friendly tip as well, isn't it? Horrible for us.
Everybody else is happy, so we have to be happy for them.
Yeah, you'd like to think if we've secured that 9th seed that players like DeMar, I mean Vooch is going to have to start now, but DeMar sits, Coby sits. I mean we haven't got any players to replace them, but not necessarily sit, but they play maybe 10, 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Just to get
minute limitation.
Yeah, please, Billy, please.
You know it's not going to happen. You know they're going to go out there and they're going to be playing 39, 40 minutes.
And obviously the Weasel's due back as well, I think, tonight, innit, for Hawks. So
that's okay. Once Io is there, he'll be all right.
Yeah. So I've got nothing else. I don't know if you have.
No, I don't think so. Just a final shout out again to everybody that took time out to be nice to me and make me feel at home when I was in Chicago. So thank you all very much.
Yeah. Apologies if we've sounded a little bit rushed, but you're back to real life now, aren't you? And
yeah, I've got to go to work.
Off to work. So obviously we were trying to squeeze it in before you rushed off. So again, thank you for all the support over the weekend. It does actually mean a lot to us.
It really does.
And obviously, thanks for listening. Like I said at the start, rate, review, subscribe, all the good stuff. And as always, I've been Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK, and you can find us on all the socials at CRedUK.
And you'll find me on Twitter at Neill CRedUK. On behalf of both Matt and myself and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everybody for tuning in. From us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. Until next time, see red people and go Bulls.